Hello, my name is Gideon Smith for the United Nations in Trinidad and Tobago. Today I am joined by Mr. Glen Niles, the founder of the Down Syndrome Family Network. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Gideon.
So can you start us off by briefly describing your organization and its main purpose?
Okay, well, the Down Syndrome Family Network was incorporated in August 2011. It was just mainly myself. I looked for like-minded parents, and about 5 of us got together and tried to determine what was lacking, because we were all parents of children with Down syndrome, what was lacking. And we said that we didn't have like a support network where people could come together, learn from each other, and also lobby for and on behalf of our kids. So we came up with the concept, the Down Syndrome Family Network. That's even the choice of the name. And we were incorporated in August 2011 and launched in 2012. And the main purpose of the network, at least from me, and I put that forward to the other board members, was to advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities, because we see that is something that is almost not considered here, even though there's a lot being done for persons with disabilities, but their individual rights are really not considered. And that was the genesis of the network, to start with that, also to offer that platform for parents to come together and network, meet each other, and realize I'm not in this alone.
Yeah.
You know, there are other people who are going through the same thing I'm going through. You know, my issues are not worse there, than theirs, and we could support each other. And one other thing was to make parents even aware of the full potential of persons with Down syndrome, because as a parent I wasn't even aware until I traveled and I was able to meet young adults with Down syndrome and sit with them speaking just like I'm speaking to you. And they understood everything I said and were able to respond accordingly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And speaking of the rights of persons with disabilities in general, SDG 10, it speaks to reducing inequalities, and in particular one of its targets is by 2030 to empower and promote the social, economic and political inclusion of all, irrespective of their age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, or other status. So with a particular focus on the differently able and the disabled, what initiatives are you involved in that help to advance this goal?
Well, as I said, the first thing is people not being aware of the potential of persons with disabilities. So there's no way we can empower them and promote social and economic inclusion if we don't know what they're capable of doing. Because it's a kind of blanket approach used for persons with disabilities, especially intellectual disabilities. They're all placed in a special school, and you really don't expect them to achieve anything. It's very limited. And I had that same concept, when my son was born. I thought that was it for him. Yeah. And that was the do-all and all. He will just be there sitting at home and not being able to do anything. Until, as I said, I started attending the conferences abroad and actually met people with Down syndrome who were employed. Well, to start with, they were included in the regular educational system. So they passed through the junior high school, and even went to college and graduated with their peers. That was another thing. They were not kept back in any class. They moved forward with their peers and graduated with their peers. Now, they did a revised curriculum, and there were other support mechanisms in place. There were teachers' aides, there were student peer counselors as well, working with them. But the whole thing, it was all support to help empower them, as the SDG 10 says. So we are really, really, really far away from that. So part of the mandate of the network is to work on that, making people aware of the potential of persons with Down syndrome. So we have an annual international conference where we bring down a very accomplished self-advocate and their parent. Sometimes both parents come as well, because that is key to letting the parents hear understand the message that they are trying to say, because a lot of people expect that, okay, because these advocates are coming from Canada and from the US, that, oh, they have everything. You know, they have the laws, they have the schools, they have everything in place. So it's easy for their child to become, you know, successful. That can't happen here in Trinidad, that won't happen to my son. They don't know what we have to deal with, and they focus on all the negatives. But when they meet and speak to the parents and hear what they had to go through, some of them, their kids are in their 30s, so there were no laws in the US. You know, once their kids were like over 35. So they had to fight for everything. They took the schools to court and they won. Parents changed their careers and they went into a career that would be able to help their child. So, you know, some of them went into special ed, you know, some of them went into developing software for children with intellectual disabilities, you know, a whole range of different things, but everything was geared towards supporting their child. And we see the results of that when we look at their kids. So even in the parents' response during their presentation at the conference, they always say that, you know, everybody looks at their child and look at how successful he is, but they didn't see the failures. You know, what they as parents went through and how many times he failed at different things before he was able to succeed at some of the things that we down here are lauding, you know, because our children are so far away from that, and it's not because they cannot do it, it's just because they were never given the opportunity, you know, because we have some of our self-advocates who are very outspoken, who could sit and carry on a conversation. We have Christy D'Souza, who has been on the CNC3 and CCN TV morning edition shows, and even in Tobago, you know, speaking for herself, no prompting, being interviewed by the announcer. Now think of where Christy would have been if she was able, you know, to have been included in that educational system, you know, that we have on paper, but has never been implemented. So that is where I think we have to start. And it really starts in the home as well, because parents have to believe in the potential of their kids. And then they could expose that belief to the wider society, because they will expect more from the schools, as opposed to just sending them to the schools and realizing that, okay, well, they will never really achieve anything, but they will be happy in the school and they do different curricular activities, and they'll just make them happy, well-rounded individuals, as opposed to empowering them to actually be independent and actually challenge them to see where they could go. All right, so that's one of the things, creating that awareness, as well as a lot of this is hinged on the fact that there are no laws governing persons with disabilities here in Trinidad and Tobago. We had the National Policy on Persons with Disabilities from 2007, but from that, no legislation came out of it. So right now, the government of Trinidad and Tobago is in the process of amending that policy. So soon there will be a public consultation on the draft policy, so that parents and educational facilities that offer services to persons with disabilities and other stakeholders would be able to come to the consultations and review that draft policy and put their 2 cents in, which is important. So we are also advocating for that, and our focus is always the rights of persons with disabilities.
So I want to talk about some next steps. You kind of mentioned steps that parents should take, you know, to help empower their own children. You mentioned some of the activities that are happening at the national level to move forward. And you yourself, as a parent of a child with Down syndrome, you made that step to form the network, etc. But what are some of the other next steps that need to be taken, not just by individuals or communities, but at the national level, regional level?
Right, well, it's just we keep trying to spread this like a virus. So everybody we connect with, you know, we talk to them about it. We are approaching corporate TNT to give some of our self-advocates an opportunity in the work environment. As an internship, probably for 3 months, to start with. My son actually started on one of those internship programs, and he's still with the company after 18 months. So he's almost like part of the family there now. And I mean, everybody's expectations, in fact, we really didn't know what to expect, because this has not really been done. There have been people with Down syndrome working in Trinidad and Tobago, but we don't have like tangible statistics on how successful the initiative was. So with me monitoring exactly what is going on now, with my son, and seeing him grow from strength to strength within the organization, some of the things that we didn't think he would be able to do, he has been able to do. And he just continues to amaze us. And that is what I use and try to send that message out to the other parents. And then it's for the parents now to try and get that message out to the schools and to the community groups that they're in. It's just don't limit them. Megan Bumgar is one of the self-advocates who we brought to our conference last year. She's one of the stars in the reality show Born This Way that's very popular on A&E. She keeps saying that she has several videos on YouTube. Don't limit me. It's all about giving me the opportunity, giving me a chance. Because when we speak to a lot of the service providers, they always say what these kids could do. And I'm like, so how do you know they cannot do this?
Yeah.
And it's because I lived it. I remember all the things that I didn't allow my son to do, because I thought he will never be able to do it. And now he's doing all those things and more. It's just incredible. He keeps, rising to the challenge and exceeding it. So I'm just, okay, what next?
And then what are some of the challenges that you found yourself facing in trying to advocate for the value, acceptance, and inclusion of persons with disabilities?
One of the main challenges would be, as I keep saying, it starts in the home. Some of the parents, they are fully ingrained in that concept that their child will never do anything. Mm-hmm. So that is the first barrier that we have to try and get past, because once they do believe in it, it will never happen. Yeah, because they will not try different things. Some parents actually tell me, they say, well, Glenn, you could do that with your son, but that wouldn't happen with my son. And I sometimes I wish, because some people have even suggested it, they say, well, Glenn, why don't you open somewhere? Open an institution. But I'm like, there are a lot of institutions already. But what we try to do is partner with them and try to introduce this new concept. Change what you're doing. Let's try to get away from the charity model where we just take care of persons with disabilities and move towards the social model. Because everybody talks about inclusion, but it isn't heavily practiced. Because when you think about inclusion in its fullest form, you think about that person eventually being able to be a part of society.
Yeah.
But when, like how my son was, he was in a regular daycare, but then after that, special school after special school after special school. Now, in no way that will prepare him for inclusion.
Yeah.
Now, that is not saying that there will never be a need for special schools. There will always be a need for special schools. But then it should not be a kind of across the bar, everybody with intellectual disabilities be placed there without any assessment. Because some of the kids don't have to be placed there if they're assessed. And then some of them would be able to leave the special schools, but should be able to leave the special schools after a certain period, because they would have reached a certain level where they could have been reintroduced into a regular school system. Yeah. Right? So it's starting at home, and for the parents to believe that, and then for the school system, because we have our dialogues, dialogue with the Ministry of Education, and we are always in dialogue with the other ministries that offer services to persons with disabilities in just trying to change that mindset and open up that little window of opportunity, and let's see what happens. Let's take the jump, let's be innovative, let's create that change, as opposed to going along with what we have been doing for several years now without any change at all.
Yeah. So just before you go, how would you sum up your vision for persons with disabilities? And also, if you have any calls to action, anything that you would like to add in closing?
Well, my vision is to actually see persons with disabilities being allowed into the regular educational system, actually seeing them being given that opportunity. Now, some of the children with intellectual disabilities get into the primary school system, but it's not because of any policy, it's more because of the relationship the parent has with the school, if there was a sibling going there before, or if the parent attended there, or if a peer is now the teacher or the principal. So it's like that kind of relationship.
And I imagine it works out.
Yeah, but still there are some hiccups because some of the teachers, however, are not willing to make the concessions, that is required. And then when they reach out to student support services, the arm of the Ministry of Education that facilitates the teachers' aids, sometimes they don't have, enough persons on staff to be able to implement that program in the school. But I still think it's mostly political will, and that's where I'm hoping that with the draft national policy, hoping that it comes on board quickly and legislation follows, so at least the parents have something besides the Constitution, to work towards to help them improve the future of their child, because this is really a game changer. I mean, when I think about when my son was born and what I thought would have been possible for him, and I think about what he's doing now, and the kind of young man, because he's 18 now, and the kind of young man he's growing into, there are so many things that he wants to do, and what I thought he would never be able to do, I keep meeting, these self-advocates every time I travel to a conference who are doing it, and so every time I go out, my batteries are recharged, and I come back, ready to push ahead, ready to fight, and of course, ready with more challenges for my son.
Yeah.
He might be too happy with that sometimes, right? But it's just amazing how he's able to rise to these challenges. So it's looking at continued advocacy, but especially at the government level. Because without that political will, a lot of things will not happen the way it should. And we send information to them, we let them know about the different conferences, so if they are able to send personnel there and let them see for themselves. Because I always try to tell people that was a real eye-opener for me, attending the National Down Syndrome Congress conference in the US, and meeting these young people with Down syndrome and seeing what they can do. And coming back here and even telling parents about it, seeing some parents change how their whole modus operandi with how they were dealing with their child, and seeing the progress that their children are making even now. So they are beginning to believe in it, and they're like, wow, they didn't even think. They keep sending videos of their child, surpassing different milestones that they didn't think they would be able to surpass. And I just say, just keep challenging them.
Yeah.
Just keep challenging them.
Perfect. And can you remind us where persons can go to find more information about your network, website, social media?
Yes. Well, we have our website, dsfamilynetwork.org, dsfamilynetwork.org. We are definitely on Facebook, Down Syndrome Family Network. And if you go through the albums, you'll see albums from the National Down Syndrome Congress Conference, from our conferences, and we also have quarterly workshops. And the thing is, our workshops are attended, and even our conference, they are attended by everyone. It's open to the general public. And we have a lot of people with children with different disabilities, so it's not only for persons with children with Down syndrome. It's for everyone, because we really have to come together as a community if we want to see that difference. So we have some self-advocates, who have other disabilities, and they come to the workshops, they come to the conferences, and we all collaborate in order to effect this change. So the email is dsfamilynetwork@gmail.com, dsfamilynetwork@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. And of course, for more information on what the United Nations is doing in the Caribbean or other areas of sustainable development, you can visit www.2030caribbean.org. Thank you.